welcome back, guys. We're getting ready to go into Game 2 of DRG versus Demuslim. If you weren't excited by that first game, then you don't have a pulse, because that was some amazing stuff, wasn't it, Kibbles?
I may not have a pulse because I got too excited. My blood vessels may have actually burst. Tumba, that was... Demuslim is the comeback king, and DongRaeGu is the king of killing Terrans. What's going to happen here in Game 2?
I can't predict it. I really can't. I mean, you know what? Going into this, you had to have DRG as the favorite. But after watching Game 1, Demuslim looks unkillable. I can't wait to get into this next one, though. I'm super pumped.
I cannot either. DongRaeGu with looking to have the early game advantage there. I gotta say, this build out of Demuslim, you know, I mentioned earlier that he goes for these unconventional styles. He's on the cusp of always discovering the newest, most effective build orders and always countering the metagame. And I think that Marine Hellion was an excellent display of that, because as we discussed, I know I've never casted a game, but perhaps you have, of a Terran who can take a fast third and defend a Roach Bane without siege tanks.
That's Demuslim for you. I mean...
Never have I seen it.
No, especially DRG Banelings, which work... DRG Banelings work better than regular Banelings.
They tend to just have a slightly larger splash radius.
You know what's ironic about this?
They're very gooey, if you will.
The SC2 Master Challenge, you know the one where you have to snipe those Banelings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated that one. Just saying. But you know what? Demuslim...
That shift click.
Yeah, so difficult for me. Anyway, Demuslim, though, let's talk about some of the things he did right. Survived the early game, and that was a trial for him, right? A lot of other Terrans, GG out of that situation.
They do.
DRG roaches in your base equals GG, not for Demuslim. The Marine splits, so very good. The constant harass, it was so hard to keep up with everywhere on the minimap. I mean, literally, I had my eyes glued to the minimap pointing things out, because he was dropping the main, he was dropping the natural, he was scouting around for hidden expansions. Demuslim playing it picture perfect, As a fan of Foreigners, man, that almost brought a tear to my eye.
And that is how you play Marine Marauder Medevac, if you will. You keep your opponent multitasking to the most of their capabilities. Guys, we're into this game. Let's do it. Tumba, take us away.
Okay, so here we have the veritable indestructible juggernaut known as EGDemuslim spawning as the Blue Terran. He will be facing off against none other than DRG DongRaeGu.
Tumba, dual site is going to be a very interesting map here.
Yes.
Without a shadow of a doubt. It's so good for Zerg surrounds. I would not be surprised to see DongRaeGu. We saw him shift in the late game. You know, he loves his Mutalisks, but we did see him shift later on into that Infestor-based style, and I'm going to be really eager to see exactly what he does opt to go for here. Mutalisk play is pretty effective once we see a Terran get onto 3 base.
Yes.
2 base, not the best thing to do in the world. These the bases are not too far apart, simply put, and the attack angles are mostly from the left-hand side here into the natural, and basically the bottom here. And the swing around time is pretty far if you want to harass with these mutas, one base to the other.
No, absolutely.
Openings are just great.
This another map that you really have to watch out to for ninja expansions out of Zerg.
Yeah.
We've seen it more often than not. Of course, DRG, a huge fan of ninja expansions. He used to love to expand the golds on many maps early, taking that as his first expansion.
Yeah.
So, you know, a player that's very comfortable expanding out and away from his natural. So Demuslim needs to keep an eye out. The longer this game goes, he has to be constantly vigilant and looking for those hatcheries. Now we are going to see a drone come out and get a full scout off.
Coming up the ramp, manages to scout that barracks, and he's honestly going to be able to hang out until the 310 mark. I like to stress a lot, you know, you get these scouts inside Terran bases, you want to know, when do I have to leave? 310, guys, is when the first Marine pops out of a barracks if your opponent opens with the static.
So if you're a drone and it's 309, it's time to start to think about beating it out of town.
Yeah, you get yourself to your favorite cafe and hit up that lunch.
That, or convert yourself to a hatchery if you're versing a Protoss. And LOL, as you've got roaches in their base, However, we're not going to see that in this one, because we've got one of the greatest Terrans in the world, Demuslim. And you know what? It's 306 right now, so that drone's days may be numbered as the first Marine has come out.
Yeah, DongRaeGu, is he going to continue with the scouting, or is he going to make like a balloon and fill himself with some gas? We'll have to see here. Gets around in circles around this command center. Nice job evading this Marine thus far. And from Demuslim, you know, I'm waiting to see. He's probably going to go into this factory. Hasn't dropped an add-on on this barracks just yet. What have we got going here for DongRaeGu?
Well, of course, the standard, I believe it was hatch first. Anyway, I do see the full, or what looks like to be a full behind on the minimap. There it is, in fact. So, you know, the question is, as we said, we see DRG hit the kill switch, and get extremely frustrated if he can't finish off his opponent. So coming off of that first game, I'm curious as to see when is DRG going to elect to lay on that famous aggression that he does. We already see Lings on the field, so it's one of those things where he's preparing, of course, for Demuslim. At this point, Demuslim already has his natural going down as well. And you know what? Something we didn't mention last time, Kibbles, the fact that Demuslim, behind all that aggression, also after surviving, after doing all the drops, was creating command centers and expanding behind all of that. I mean, that is so critical to note. Just the multitasking, the guy is playing just a furious brand of Terran. He really is.
I mean, DongRaeGu, he knows Terran. Yeah, he knows Terran like, talking about like you know the back of your hand. I hate that expression, man. I never look at the back of my hand. I think that was for when you didn't have phones back in the day.
I guess, but I do know the back of my hand very well.
Oh. Well, then tell me like you know the back of your hand.
Right.
Guys, we've got a quick command center here coming out of Demuslim. Basically, the Reactor Hellion expand, but without the Reactor Hellions. Did make the Reactor at pretty much the exact same time, however. He's going to be following it up with the good old safe 2 racks, not going to jump up a second gas immediately.
Well, let's not forget that Demuslim did shoot first, much like Han Solo in that last game.
Yeah.
He was the one that went ahead and was able to get all of his little contingent of Marines into DRG's base, along with a couple of Hellions. What that allowed him to do as well was react to what DRG was doing.
Absolutely.
He saw what was coming. He was able to get what he could down to protect. But this game, I haven't seen the aggression out of Demuslim, and I'm afraid, Kibbles, that he's playing it too safe.
Guys, DongRaeGu, very interesting spine crawler positioning here. I like it. It's very assertive for DongRaeGu. He's going to be able to spread out these creatures to the fullest to their extent. What that's going to allow him to do, it looks like he's going to go for some speedling play here. We did see a 44 macro hatch drop down. So common in Zerg versus Terran. And it's going to allow him to make a lot of lings. The creep spread is going to help immensely if he starts doing counter Hellions. Now, it looks as if Demuslim is opening the exact same way as last game. What do you think the reasons are here?
Well, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think part of the issue that, again, I have to reiterate, the last game, Demuslim got some early pressure in on DRG.
Yeah.
This game, not as much. Hellions are making their way across at 728, and you know what? I have to wonder just how effective are they going to be.
We do see Lings coming in here. They're going to scout the Marine count here for Demuslim, which honestly doesn't point out too much. There's about 8 Marines there. But we have the Hellions finally arriving down. 1 or 2 shots off there on that Queen. Creep spread for DongRaeGu. Well, it should be halted here by those Hellions, but he actually pulled back with them. But DongRaeGu not dropping down those Creep tumors. He has these 2 Spine Crawlers. He's got himself a lot of Queens. Evolution Chamber going down, and it should be followed by a Bailey Nest here, but we're going to have to wait and see. He's got so many Spine Crawlers here. Is he sensing some pressure coming out of Demuslim?
Well, he definitely wants to remain safe. Both players a little more passive in this game.
Yeah,
not really willing to go ahead and engage. That tells me they know exactly what's on the line in this series. And I told you, DRG takes every opponent seriously and respects every opponent. And right now, you're seeing him illustrate that as he is playing it a little safer than I think he usually would.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there, Tumba. Demuslim right now, he's got a very interesting spectrum, if you will, of timings. His upgrades are about +1 upgrade. It's about 70 seconds away, but it's still a good long distance, and things are very spread out for him. So I don't expect him to go for any timing attacks here. And you know what? As I'm explaining that, he drops down a command center. So things lining up here to make a lot of sense for Demuslim, but he's not playing too defensively. We haven't seen any siege tanks yet made by him.
No, again, you know, I have to reference game 1. Baneling bust, no siege tank, survival.
Yeah.
You usually don't use all those words together in one sentence. But you know what? Demuslim, we'll hold that thought. Here we go. We have a link surround on all of those Hellions. And unfortunately for Demuslim, going to lose all of them, Kibbles.
Yeah, that was a huge play for DongRaeGu because Demuslim was actually moving out across the board. We do see +1 about to complete. Combat Shields has finished. And, you know, if he danced here and just killed off a couple of these creep tumors, Stim may finish here as well. It's got only 40 game seconds left. But Demuslim, after losing those Hellions, I'm not too sure. He's definitely going to have to turn around. We see the Lings right now coming in for DongRaeGu. Only a nice supply depot wall up, I need to say here, for Demuslim. That was an intelligent play.
Absolutely great sim city for Demuslim thus far. Here we go, more action. Bailey's going to come in behind this, being very patient, looking for the kill here. Decent exchange there, actually, for DRG. Supplies about the same. As you can see, Lings chasing down that final Hellion right now, bailing in tow as well.
You know, if we look at the units that were actually in the composition there for Demuslim, we're at the 11-minute mark, and those were all Marines and Hellions.
Yeah.
So that was a large army with very little tech. Demuslim's been investing into units there. DongRaeGu just traded a few units that for a lot of units. Demuslim's been building up for quite a time.
And you know what else he did?
Yeah.
He expanded behind it. DRG, this is that scary style, and this is what I said. This is what sort of I was afraid that Demuslim would fall into in game one, which is you cannot let DRG get off to a good start. You've got to get some kind of pressure, any kind of pressure. Just get him off of his game. If you sit back and you try to out-macro DRG, it's going to be trouble, even if you're Demuslim.
I have to completely agree with you, Tumba. A second factory going down here for Demuslim. Does he intend to go into siege tanks finally? Because he's going to have trouble securing this third. He needs to get into some drop play, but we saw a lot of early game spine crawlers out of DongRaeGu that let him get speed very late. And I was notice how I moved right as these spine crawlers are moving. There's a huge advantage to this, and it's that in the late game or the mid game, you have those spine crawlers from the early game that were very useful to you, and they have utility here in delaying drops. DongRaeGu is not going to allow drops to pick him apart here in game 2.
Exactly right, Kibbles. That's right, because he saw in game 1, that's exactly what Demuslim did. He took advantage of the fact that there was no static defense for DRG, so he was able to go ahead and manipulate the fact that he didn't have proper first engagement. Here we go. Lings moving in, Marines firing off. Both players trying to touch each other. We got this big fungal growth going down and getting the meta back as well. Going to clean all this up. DRG looking really strong right now.
That was such an engagement for DongRaeGu, who already had the advantage and just furthered it there. These Marines with some very nice cutting, and they're going to lift up into the medevac as they do get low on health. And see, you know, Tumba, last time at this point in the game, we would have needed to immediately, I looked on the minimap, is Demuslim dropping? And the answer is no. He's not even making an attempt, and if he does, DongRaeGu is going to have plenty of time to respond.
No.
He's looking in a great position.
Exactly. Essentially what we have here is a case of DRG had too much time to prepare.
Yes.
And a prepared DRG is a scary DRG, to be quite honest. And
Deadly
Demuslim
DRG.
is not out of this game yet. Believe me, he's not. But every engagement here out has to go flawlessly for Demuslim.
You know, in fact, I'd count a lot of Terrans out at this point, except for Demuslim. He is the king of
game
comebacks.
1, after game 1, you're not kidding.
Fungal growth going down on the army right now, guys. Lings coming in and cleaning up everything with, I believe, their +2 melee.
Yeah.
And is Demuslim going to be able to hold off the pressure we're about to see here from DongRaeGu?
Well, 2 siege tanks rolling out with a host of Marines, but I don't think it's enough.
Lings coming in right now. They are likely going to go for the bear hug. And I mean, he hasn't even laid his fungals yet. Everything for here for Demuslim is likely going to die.
Infested Beachballs of Death coming out, aka Infested Terrans, going to start to do work. Lings, and look at that, going to just retreat with this Infestor. So very smart, wants to keep them alive.
No planetary here at the third combat, and these Lings are going to come in. They're going to force the lift off. They're going to kill. No, look how many mules were here. We had 4 mules. 3 of them managing to get away. The SCVs have to be transferred. A lot of damage being done to Demuslim right now. Most of the stuff at the front was held off, but DongRaeGu behind this is taking a fourth. He checked to Ultras. He started 3-3-3 Adrenal Cleanse.
No, exactly. Everything you mentioned, none of it good for Demuslim.
Yeah.
Essentially trying to muster a force here to go ahead and, you know what, while he is the king of comebacks, he is so up against it right now, it's hard to articulate. DRG looking so very solid, and here's the scary thing about DRG. Look at the creep spread. Halfway across the map, he's got all that vision, and you know what? He's comfortable, Kibbles.
He absolutely is. One of the other things here about DongRaeGu that's going to make it so difficult for Demuslim to rally any sort of comeback is he doesn't have a glaring weakness. You know, in these games that we've seen, he's not vulnerable to drops right now. He doesn't have Broodlords and vulnerable to Vikings, but Tumba, we've got an engagement here with these Lings.
Oh, man. And between the Infestors and the Failings, big bungles going down the medevacs, as well as those siege tanks forfeit. There's the GG out of Demuslim. So, once again, proving that this is going to be an interesting series, to say the least. We are seeing some of the best brand of Zerg and Terran be played here. I'm so excited. This is going to an ace match, Kibbles.
This is going to game 3, Tumba, and there's nothing more that I could ask for. We've got Demuslim in game 1 with the most absurd comeback, keeping DongRaeGu literally reeling with his arms waving in the air, if you will, or teetering over the edge of a cliff. That game, he made sure to be nowhere near a cliff. Those spine crawlers would have been his saving grace if we had seen Demuslim use the same tactic in order to rally his comeback, but he wasn't even given a chance. DongRaeGu was relentless.
He was relentless, to be sure. Give us just a second. We will be right back with game 3 of DRG versus Demuslim.